What if I told you you could buy a building in New York City and have your tenants pay the entire mortgage? This isn't a real estate fantasy. It's a strategy called house hacking. New York City is a great market to house hack. And this video, I'm going to show you the real numbers and how to make it happen. So house hacking is a very simple concept. It's when you buy a 2 to 4 family building and you live in one unit and you rent out the others. The rent from the other units covers your mortgage expense. New York City is one of the best markets in the entire country to do house hacking. The reason why, our rents are among the highest in the entire country. So all you need to focus on is getting your down payment and closing costs. And that can equal anywhere from 3 to 5% of whatever the price of the property you're looking for. And once you get in the door, your mortgage expense, whatever it may be, New York City rents would be able to cover that, if not even give you some additional profit. So let's break this down a little bit further. Say you get an FHA. An FHA program will allow you to put as little as 3.5% down payment. So let's assume that you're buying a house for $1 million. 3.5% on $1 million multifamily building. Let's assume it's a 3-family building. That's going to be about $35,000. So we're using $1 million building as an example, and say it has 3 units in it. You're putting down a minimum FHA of 3.5%. That's $35,000. You will need some cash for your closing costs, but let's assume that you are keeping the money back because you want to make some adjustments or repairs in the property. You can do what's called a seller's concession, which is getting permission from the seller to roll in your closing costs into your mortgage. So you're paying it slowly and not a lump sum at the closing table. So you're only bringing in $35,000 to make this deal happen. And let's assume you live in one apartment. That's a 2-bedroom apartment, and the other 2 are also 2-bedroom apartments. So now you have a 3-unit building with 6 bedrooms, 2 that you're occupying, 2 other apartments with 2 bedrooms each. Your average rent in New York for a 2-bedroom is easily anywhere around $2,500 to $2,800. Let's be conservative and let's say $2,500 per apartment. Now you're at $5,000. So here's a couple different scenarios so you can see how realistic this is. Here's 3 different scenarios. You buy a 2-family building in, say, the Bronx or Queens for $800,000. You do an FHA. An FHA is around $28,000 down payment, okay? And then you rent one unit, you live in the other. Your rent is coming in at, say, $2,200. Now your mortgage expense drops dramatically. So it's a lot more feasible, and you're paying the same, if not less, than what you would rent to pay someone else's mortgage. Now you're paying your own, and you own the building. Now, scenario 2, $1.2 million, 3-family building, where you're renting out units anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500 each. Very similar to the first scenario that I broke down to you. And you're bringing only your down payment costs. So for a building like this, that could be somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000. And then you can potentially find buildings in New York City that are 4-unit buildings, somewhere around $1.5 million, that are seriously cash flowing because now you have 3 units that are contributing to your mortgage expense. Now you're starting to understand how these properties cash flow and what makes sense and what does not. So here's what you want to do. When you're assessing a property, these are the things you want to look for and the things you want to avoid. If you're looking at a multifamily building that already has tenants or leases in place, it's very important that you verify the rents. You want to make sure that you get documentation that states that the tenants have been paying on time. That's confirmation that rents have been paid digitally, or if they've been paid in check, and that for at least a year, you're able to verify that rent was always paid on time. The truth is, when you're able to pick your own tenants, that's always best case scenario, but that doesn't mean there aren't multifamily buildings in New York City with good paying tenants already in place. Another thing that's very important is that because we're looking for cash flow, it's important that we know what we're walking ourselves into. If you're going to buy a multifamily building, it's crucial that you get an inspection done before you sign a contract. You want to know what you're buying before you buy it. And if there's things that need to be repaired in the building, whether it's a roof or plumbing or electric or cosmetic, kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, etc., that you know this before you commit to it. Sometimes there's good deals out there and they just need a little bit of patch-up work. If the numbers are right, this might make sense for you. Or you realize something is a little bit too over your head and you're not willing to spend the money it requires for you to get top dollar rent. These are things you want to keep in consideration. Something that's very important and gets mistaken very often is the power of leases. A lease is great because a lease binds a tenant to pay a certain amount of rent for at least a year to 2 years. However, it's also binding to you as the landlord. So sometimes having a month to month, depending on the scenario and the tenant, might be more beneficial because it allows you more flexibility and it's not binding you to a longer period of time. One of the best aspects of owning a multifamily building, especially as part of the building is considered an investment, is the tax implications, where you can write off against your interest and depreciation. This is something that's huge and is a huge tax write-off when, say, you are looking to write off more to be able to reduce your tax liability. The biggest mistakes I see first-time house hackers make: not getting an inspection, not verifying the tenants that are actually living in the building if you're inheriting them, choosing your own tenants and not putting them through a verification process to make sure you know who you're renting to. These are some of the biggest mistakes I see first-time house hackers make. See, the thing about buying a house in New York City is that over time, the home is going to appreciate greatly. So you're not only paying your mortgage expense a lot less because you have rents coming in, your building is slowly appreciating percent by percent every year, which in turn is going to allow you to be able to, say, get another mortgage on another property or take out equity eventually from the property so you can do any other smart investments or simply take a vacation. If you want to run house hacking numbers accurately and see if a property is worthwhile for you to invest on, we'd love to talk to you here at the Rehub team. All you got to do is set up a one-on-one with us and we will run every number for you so that you can make your best house hacking investment.